Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. And I know it's everyone's favorite day of the week. This is another interview episode, and I have my amazing friend, Yolanda Castello, with me today. We are actually in a group coaching program together, and she does some really interesting things. And what really spoke to me about her is that she deals with a number of things: anxiety, stress, overwhelm, imposter syndrome, all things that are becoming more and more prevalent in entrepreneurship with the overexposure that social media gives us to everyone else, and why we're putting all this energy into things that we actually can't control, when what we can control is ourselves and how we feel, how we respond, how we react. And she's got so many interesting things to talk about. I don't want to waste any more time. So Yolanda, welcome to today's episode.
Hi, Scott. It's brilliant being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's grateful to have you here, and I know the audience is going to take away so much from today. So before we dive into, obviously, the multitude of zones of geniuses that you have, let's talk a little bit about your journey. So, what were those pivotal moments or that aha moment for you? Because you do have a background in banking, so you come from finance, and what you're doing right now is completely different from what you started in. So what was it? What moment did really positively affect you in that way where it sent you on this path that you're now currently on?
Sometimes I wonder whether people are even going to guess, because corporate life it can be so full on. It can be so over busy, over stressed, worrying. When you're not in the office, which is actually not a lot of the time because you're mostly in the office. When you're out of the office, you're still worrying about what's going on in the office. And in my experience, I worked for the biggest bank in the world. I run a team of foreign exchange traders. Goodness me, the size of the deals we had under our name. My trading portfolio was in the billions. It was at corporate level. It was the corporate treasury. So it was just a huge thing. Even the magnitudes of the numbers we dealt with were quite scary. Basically, anything goes wrong in there, you've lost $1 million before you've breathed again, right? So the level of pressure and the level of stress, we all felt it. Basically, we all felt it. And there was one point when I became a bit unwell, and looking back, in recovering from it and looking back, I realized there was a lot I wasn't understanding very well in terms of how the mind really works. What does your body require? What does your mind require? How it all works together, and how the human experience is really coming about. How it's much more inside out than outside in. We're all so fooled, aren't we, by this thing that looks so real, that we're so vulnerable, and we're sitting here at the mercy of whatever's going on, when in actual fact there's so much of a say that we have ourselves. And I only wish I'd learned that earlier, but hey, better late than never.
No, I completely agree, and there's so many things that I want to dive into. And the funny thing is that a lot of these things we are so clearly apparent and understanding of. We know about how everyone is overstressed, and there's tons of anxiety, and there's a rise in depression and mental wellness and overwhelmed and all of those things. My question to you is, since they're so known, why do you feel it's still difficult for people to cope or progress in a positive way even though there's so many resources and tools out there for us to get better with all those things.
There are so many resources, like you say, absolutely. But people don't even have time to stop and breathe and think and use them. As you know, I'm into tapping. I use two approaches combined. One is emotional freedom technique, which is also known as tapping, but that's only half of what I do. The other half is a form of mental health coaching, 3 principles based for those of you that are into in this field. And it's an understanding of how the human experience comes about, how it's also called the inside out understanding, like I was saying a bit earlier. And the thing is, there are very all-encompassing approaches like mine, but even I myself am and I'm the expert. Sometimes I'm fooled by how real it all looks and by how it all looks like it's got to be done and there's no other way and this is the only answer. And if you don't even take the time to learn about these tools, and even once you know them, life can fool you. It can look so real. I think earlier today, I was talking to a very senior person who was considering becoming my client. And, I was saying to her, in the end, the question is, are you prepared to put a few months into learning about this and using it? Or are you not? Or are you just going to keep being busy, which is what so many of us do so much of the time.
It's funny, people hear it may take a couple months, maybe even a year to see a positive change. And all of a sudden, they don't have the time for it. Meanwhile, they're sick and tired of how long they've been spending in that mindset for the last 15 to 20 years. But all of a sudden,
longer. Indeed.
But all of a sudden, 12 months seems like forever.
Exactly right. Exactly, Aaron.
And we know how much can change in a small amount of time. So let's go back to something that you mentioned about tapping. And I'm very familiar with multiple types of healing, whether it's Reiki or chakra tapping. There's so many different things out there. So for the audience that is not familiar with tapping, why don't you dive into a little bit about that technique and how it does help people?
Sure. So I'll briefly talk about the science behind it, because the reason it says MSc after my name is because I'm a Master's of Science. I studied at the University of London at London Business School. That's where I obtained my MSc. And this is my favorite bit. So I'll try not to take too long, but for those of you that aren't familiar with tapping, it involves tapping on certain acupuncture points on your face and torso. They're very well-known acupuncture points, technically speaking, the end points of an acupuncture channel. So you don't have to be needle point accurate to find the point. It's more like a little area because it's the end of a channel. And so it's very easy to learn. And the science that it is based upon is the fact that as you stimulate these acupuncture points with 2 fingers or even 1 finger, I teach people how to do this, they mirror me, I never touch anyone. As you stimulate these acupuncture points, the mechanic energy that you're putting onto that little tapping is converted into electric energy, actually, by some very specialized proteins in our cells. So essentially, the impulse you're giving to your skin as you tap is going to travel through the connective tissue. The collagen is a semiconductor in your connective tissue, and it travels to your brain. And we know from the brain scan research that's been done that it is proven to reduce blood flow to the amygdala, which is a lovely Greek word for a bit of your brain that kicks off the stress response. So you're physically removing blood flow from the bit that keeps you wired up, not sleeping, upset, stressed, overwhelmed. Okay, there's also very good research proving how it reduces stress hormones, cortisol, huge drops. So that's the physical impact on it. And of course, there are different types of studies. That's the mechanism studies that would show you that. But there are outcome studies that show you that it does achieve drops in anxiety, in depression, in post-traumatic stress disorder, even in complex trauma, in depression, in overwhelm, in fears, phobias, all these kinds of things. And it's becoming better and better known despite being only 30 to 40 years old, because it's very effective and very well proven. So right now I'm even getting referrals from the foremost psychiatric clinics in Europe. And they know about this technique, and they know about my work and how long I've been around for the last 10 years, and they send me people. So it's quite amazing, really, how fast it's progressing and how many people I get to help.
Which in the end, that's the most important thing, is how we can serve and help other people. So again, it's one of the more lesser known techniques for helping to reduce stress. And what do you think makes the tapping technique so unique? Because again, a lot of people are familiar with acupuncture. My wife's done acupuncture, so have I. What are some of the unique added benefits of tapping compared to other types of therapy and treatment out there for helping people with overwhelm and stress and anxiety?
Sure, absolutely. One, it's very fast. It's very fast per the research. When you compare it to the gold standard, it comes out as effective or even more effective in terms of speed. When you compare it to the gold standard, which is CBT, some comparison studies have been done, and in those studies it's come out either as good or better in terms of speed even, right? And another great positive about tapping is that it's very simple, easy to learn, and it's self-administered. So my corporate social responsibility, that part of my business, has been introducing this approach in schools. And it's quite wonderful to see children growing up, clearing the issues as they happen. And then you get people that become adults and don't look back and think about when somebody laughed at them at school, because they've cleared the intensity of it there and then. I call it the magic points with them. They have animal names, and that's another huge benefit of it. You know, even children, people of all ages, they can self-administer it. Even when I'm not around, they don't need me. It's a tool for life that is proven and highly effective. It's very, very cost effective, which is why countries like Australia have it in the public health service. Every pain clinic in Australia, I'm told, uses EFT. It's the benefits for there's a recent piece of research done on biological markers. And there were so many amazing biological markers showing great improvements, including activation and deactivation of certain genes. I mean, it's fascinating. It helps with blood pressure and resting heart rate and anxiety and depression and all the good things we've talked about. And pain, the improvements they've seen in pain have meant they are now doing research only on the pain, which is already done, and it's fabulous as well. So it's got so much going for it in terms of effectiveness that when you couple that with being able to do it yourself and learning it and being able to do it forever, I think that's pretty unique, not even needing the therapist. Once you've cleared, perhaps, of course, it would be irresponsible to send somebody with serious trauma to tap on themselves and clear it. So that's where we come in, we practitioners. But once anything that's severe, once anything that's serious has cleared, off you go. You know, you have an exam, you have a test, you have an interview, go tap, you have a difficult meeting with a client. I have hundreds of clients that tap before client meetings or before interviews or whatever it might be. So a lot going for it that is quite unique.
Yeah, and the one thing that I love about different methods and ways to do things is that it's not a one size fits all. And I think the more people that talk about certain things that can help more people, the more known it's going to become. So you can see, a country like Australia that's more progressive as far as different types of tools and resources as far as helping people. I think the pandemic that, depending upon where you live, it's still, still going, but it's definitely brought about more mental health struggles just because of everything that's been taken away from people, whether it's loved ones or whether it's jobs and money. But I love what you said about it's something that you can
Yeah,
self-administer. People can't do acupuncture on
exactly.
themselves. That's something I would not recommend
Yeah,
doing. But with
yeah.
Reiki and even all of those chakra and
Yeah.
energy work, you need a
Mhm,
facilitator. And the fact that anyone can learn tapping,
mhm.
and if they're feeling
Yeah,
stressed, if they're it's almost like a form of meditation. You can self-soothe
exactly.
and
Yeah.
but it also it just proves how amazing the human body is, that we are truly capable of healing ourselves. And our thoughts will either hurt us or help us, and a lot of it has to do with what's going on inside. So for the person that's listening to this that may struggle with anxiety and stress
Mhm,
and
mhm,
overwhelm and imposter syndrome and comparison, all those things that we know we shouldn't have a part
mhm,
of our thoughts or daily life.
mhm.
Where does someone begin in learning some of these techniques and strategies to help improving those areas of their life?
Absolutely. There's heaps and stacks of information in internet. You can literally have a look at tapping for anxiety, tapping for fear, tapping for nerves, tapping for pain. And there are loads of books. There are entire books, written about even very specific matters. So there's the tapping solution for pain, the tapping solution for weight loss, for fears, for all sorts of things. So there's a lot of information that you can find out there, and you can start to have a go and literally see your intensity dropping. We always recommend that people are very objective, very down to earth, and give the intensity of the feeling a reading from 0 to 10. And then they tap, as they will see in videos, and then they check again. And then they tap again for a few minutes, and then they check again. And literally in front of you, in front of your very eyes, you can see the intensity of that feeling dropping. And you're helping yourself, and off you go. Sometimes, Scott, I'm sure you will agree, sometimes all you need is to take it down a couple of notches and proceed with your day. Sometimes that's all you need. Of course, if anything has the word severe in it, see a practitioner. But many times, all you need is a bit like a thermostat on your emotions. You turn them down a bit, off you go to have a great day. And this is exactly what tapping offers.
It's almost like that they tell you, if you're ever feeling a certain way, take a nice deep breath to rewire the neurons that are wiring and firing in your brain. It's almost like a reset. Even if it's doing like a little 5-minute meditation, it's nice having that tool in our tool belts. If we are feeling a certain way, we know if it's fear, if it's anxiety, if it's doubt, if it's any of those things, and you learn some tapping techniques, you could
Mhm.
self-soothe. Almost, if you want to go you know back even further, think about when you're raising a baby. Before it learns to suck its thumb, it you have a pacifier, because then it has to learn
Exactly.
how to self-soothe. And you even see in some ultrasounds, you can actually see the baby has learned to self-soothe itself in the belly, in the womb, it's sucking its
Exactly.
thumb.
We
So
all need ways to self soothe, all
and
of us.
absolutely.
Mm.
So as we start to wind down, for people that are really interested in, because again, I believe the less stress that we carry, the less overwhelm that we have, the more productive we can be in our businesses. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast that whatever business they're looking to grow, it can be overwhelming. It could be anxiety ridden. So how does one find out more about not just tapping in general, but how you help women and multitudes of people get
Mm.
their life on a better path that will lead to greater
Mm.
things in every aspect of their life?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a website. It's tapitbetter.com, as in kiss it better, but with tapping. So tapitbetter.com. You can have a look there, or you can join my free Facebook group, which is called Freedom from Stress and Other Nasties. If you have a look in Facebook, just put it in the search box and request to join, and I will accept your request immediately. And there are loads and loads of videos of tapping applied to very specific issues. So you can have a look in the guides and right away look at me and start tapping for fear, tapping for stress, tapping for procrastination, tapping for cravings, for constant hunger, for overwhelm, for all sorts of things. So it's a very useful place to go to. Just feel free to join us there and enjoy the learning. Any questions, by all means, find me in Facebook and drop them to me in a direct message anytime.
Awesome. And for all the listeners, all the information that Yolanda just mentioned will be in the description of this episode. So you don't have to travel far. The link to join her group will be in there, as well as her website. So Yolanda, before we close out today, one final question. What does success truly mean to you?
Success. I'm a bit old-fashioned in that. So my definition of success has genuinely always been to leave this place a better, to leave this world a better place than I found it. And it is such a privilege and such an honor to have these amazing human beings in front of me that arrive in a given state, in a given mental state, generally, also almost often physical as well. But by the time we're done meeting up, they feel quite different, and it could not be more rewarding.
You know, I've done over 100 interviews just on this podcast alone, maybe even more, 120. I'm getting close to 300 episodes now.
Wow.
And I've asked that question 120 and 130 times or so, and not one person has ever mentioned success meaning money. Everyone has clearly stated that success is something greater than money. It's freedom. It's the ability to choose their life on their terms, the impact that they leave on those around them. And, you know, the servant hearts are the ones that impact the most people, but also leave that footprint for other people to follow. So you are definitely one of those people. And Yolanda, I'm just really grateful that you came on here to share your wisdom and your knowledge with my audience. And I highly encourage all the people that are listening to this to check Yolanda's Facebook group out, check her website out. If you're that person that's suffering from anxiety and stress and overwhelm and imposter syndrome and all those things, and you want to try something different that is self-administered, that doesn't involve needles, I highly recommend you checking out everything that Yolanda is doing. So Yolanda, thank you so much again for being here today. Just grateful for you and all the knowledge that you shared. It has
been an utter pleasure. And I forgot to mention, so while I'm here, I may as well, for any of you that aren't so much into Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can find me there as well.
Awesome. Okay. And I will have the link to your LinkedIn page as well. So Yolanda, thank you again for being here. And for the listeners, thank you again for joining. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you everyone for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.